Hey everybody, how are you doing tonight? Surprise show on What's Up Canada tonight. Looks like it might only be on YouTube. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but hopefully Facebook will get their act together sometime soon. But over the last couple of days, we've been getting flooded with questions and comments about two different things. So tonight we're bringing in Mr. Doug Force himself. And we're going to get some of these questions answered for you and talk about what is filling our email boxes this week. Hey, Doug, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for having me, Wayne. I appreciate it. And look forward to helping your audience figure out what the heck's going on right now in the world.
There's a lot of questions going on. The world is a really, really busy place. And we get a chance to talk often. This part is true, but tonight we get a bit of a special chance to just be one-on-one and deal with some of the questions that are coming through the What's Up Canada audience that are filling your email boxes and your comments and all of this stuff too, because you are the go-to guy for information and answers. So very much appreciated for you coming and hanging out with us tonight. So to start this off, we're going to dig into a couple of different things tonight for everybody that knows. I know there's a lot of questions about what's going on in the stock markets and silver and business and banking and all of that corruption, but that's not where we're going to start. We're going to start with some of Doug's spectacular work and the great response to his newest release called Allodial Title versus Land Patents. We were together on a show when you announced this, and it's started to take off a little bit, and I've had a chance to learn a little bit more about it, and I started passing this book on to other people, and this is now already in a few days kind of becoming a coast-to-coast phenomenon, and I am getting bombarded with questions as that I'm forwarding on to you. So I'm going to shut up and let you start with some of the biggest questions that you're getting on this book, and you can start with what the book is, and go from there.
Well, and I appreciate people. They've been emailing. My email has just been absolutely chocker full for the last couple of days, and a lot of people that do understand, they will donate, and I will gift them the book. It's called Allodial Title via Land Patents, and it explains, basically, it gives a thumbnail. It's only 25 pages long, and I compressed about 300 to 400 pages worth of information into 25 pages to make it easy to understand. And I gave definitions and so forth, examples of what a land patent is, what a land grant is, how this all came about with a history lesson. Of course, it's Doug Force. It has to have a history lesson there somewhere. So when we talk about the various acts that were created to get these land patents issued, and the most importantly, why? The big question that everybody asks me is why? Why do we need land patents? What does that do for us? And in one word, it's freedom. And it gives you absolute ownership of the land under your feet. Now, this is funny. So I actually wrote this out. I got a little bit of a show note for today, because people say, well, what's the difference between allodial title and fee simple? Because we're all got fee simple, it seems. And I'm going to just take a second here to read you what fee simple actually means, and what they're not going to tell you, and what the legal definition of fee simple is, and you won't find this in a legal dictionary because they're trying to obfuscate what it is. They want you to believe that you own property. And so fee simple is a property ownership that sits upon the land. The land is managed by the municipality or the city or the province, and may charge property taxes, not land taxes. That's why you get your property in fee simple. And the beautiful part of allodial title is it's on the land. Property is the house, is the driveway, it's the concrete pathway to the garage, it's the garage, etc., etc. That's considered property, not considered land. And that's why they don't charge you land tax, they charge you property tax. And so if you update the land patent into your common law name, and there's a process to go through. And right now I'm helping people in Ontario, in Saskatchewan, in Alberta, a whole bunch of people in Alberta. I probably got, I would say at least 30 people in Alberta that are in various stages of the process. And funny enough, British Columbia, and in British Columbia, in the booklet, we didn't include British Columbia in there because I didn't have enough information for people for British Columbia. I'm going through that process, and I'm going to add that into the book once I have it. But it seems people took it upon themselves, and we've actually got 2 people in the final stage. I'll be writing up their declaration documents later this week, probably over the weekend, and they'll be the first 2 to actually take this on the west here. And the beautiful part of all this is that you get to own your land, and the CRA cannot lien that. So if you owe taxes, they can't lien your property or your land once you've taken that. Now, the property that sits on the land is no longer taxable because it sits on sovereign land. And people talk to me, oh, well, we need to put common law courts in. We need to do common law documents this and common law documents that. We need to go into their courts and force them to take our common law documents. And I say to those folks, I say, well, what land under your feet do you have to create common law? And they look at me like I'm from Mars. And then I go on to say, well, isn't common law of the land? And if you don't have land under your feet, then how does common law work for you? Because the courts here are all maritime courts. Yes, they will, in some instances, recognize, especially the Queen's Bench, I believe it is, will recognize from time to time properly drawn common law documents if it's advantageous to the court, not to you. And they do have to recognize common law precedents set pre-1931 in all the courts. So I'll give you a quick example of what a precedent would be. In 1910, a common law court in Ontario recognized that bylaws only are applicable to the corporation employees and directors of that company. And that was tested again in the 1980s, brought forward in the 1980s, and then again in the 1990s, and tested again, and the courts recognized that precedent. And it's going through the courts right now in Ontario. People are actually using that precedent because they went to the courts and said, John Tory made these bylaws. Well, Toronto is a corporation, so those bylaws only apply to the employees of that corporation and to the directors of that corporation. Well, how do they apply to the people of the city of Toronto? They don't. And that's what I mean by a precedent. And so we look today at taking this allodial title, and it really does, and that's what I say, it's one word, freedom. It gives you freedom. But freedom isn't free, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. You actually have to work at keeping it. That's why we're losing it so easily to these tyrants right now, is because we don't understand that we have unalienable rights, that we are the sovereigns. In 1931, the Court and Chancery for the British Empire gave the people of Canada the land. We own the land. They do not. We are the boss. And the one way we could prove that today in their court system, by not actually having to go into court, is to take allodial title through that land patent and updating it in our name. And if they come after us, we simply file a certified copy of the updated land patent in our name, and they have no jurisdiction. And that's what you're trying. That's the whole idea, is to give them and to challenge jurisdiction by proving, and that proves you stand in common law. You have law of the land under your feet. That is the finest way to prove common law that you can ever have. No matter how much paperwork you file in their courts, without land under your feet, you're tipping at windmills. Anyway, any more questions? I feel like I got, whoa, what a huge dump onto the people. But it really is, and it really comes down to that kind of simplicity. This isn't rocket science.
No, and this is the problem is we search for complicated answers to things that we don't understand, and it doesn't always have to be complicated. It's breaking things down to the lowest common denominator is why they call it common sense. And we don't have the foundation of information and history and legal knowledge by a large vast majority of the rule of thumb in Canada. We just don't have that information or knowledge to understand or comprehend all of this. But one of the questions that I'm getting in so often in these discussions is, you said about putting this into your common law name and this is where people, they go off on a tangent right away when they see a video. Oh, it's about pricking your finger and swearing documents and putting your blood seal on shit and all of this insane nonsense, or freedom of the land stuff, or these are the accusations that the uninformed throw at us. So these are the things that, I mean, starting from base discussions, people need to understand that this is one of the things that sets Canada apart in the world, is that it has a foundation in common law and maritime law. And it even says so in Wikipedia. Go look it up, right? But we don't know how to wield the common law, and the courts and lawyers all answer to the maritime law. And this allodial title via land patents is wielding common law, but you have to do it right.
Well, and here's the wonderful thing. I'm going to do two things. First of all, I'm going to give everybody in the audience watching tonight and people who will watch this video after it's posted, I'm going to give them all their common law name for free. I'm not going to charge them a penny. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, I'll use John Smith as the example. So John of the family Smith, voila, a common law name. That's it. That's that simple. And because we fill out the final documentation, we fill out the declaration for the people so that it's done right. We have to convert to cadastral surveying in order to update the land patent in your common law name. And there is a mathematical equations that have to be used that have to be precise. And because you're not taking 160 acres, you might only take 10 acres, or maybe you'll take a lot of 60 by 120 deep, something like that. It has to be converted from modern to cadastral, because that was the original land patent was surveyed in cadastral. And so we have to update it with that. And so that's why we take the time to do that. And we do charge for that, ladies and gentlemen. There is a fee. But we also make sure that we write your common law name for you in that final document. And then we'll send that to you. The trick, well, that's not really a trick. You have to pay your property taxes up until the day before you get the notarized signature that you'll need to have on that final declaration. So you'll pay your property taxes up until the day before, but you'll always make sure you make an appointment with the notary so that you get in there the next day to have your signature notarized. And once that's done, now you've updated the land patent into your common law name. Now you say, well, how do I sign that? Well, you use your check signing signature, because that's the one that you're going to provide on the ID that you're going to show you. He doesn't. The notary doesn't care about the document itself. He's not there to read. He will read the document because he wants to make sure that he's not certifying something that he deems to be illegal or unlawful. And but they're really there just to certify your signature. So when you produce your driver's license or your birth certificate, or not your birth certificate, your passport with a signature on it, that's what he's looking for, and that's fine. Blue or black ink is fine to use for that, and because all you're doing is certifying that that you are taking this declaration, and nobody signs in their common law name at doing anything. You don't sign a check in your common law name. And even back in the 1800s, when these things were initially put out in the early 1900s, nobody signed with their common law name because they didn't have to have that distinction. They didn't have the legal fictions back there. Everybody knew that men and women, and so without going, and I went to a gentleman, I heard a gentleman speak the other night, very interesting guy, talked about common law a lot. And one of the things that he talked to the people about were the words used. And they're very important to understand words, especially how they use them in the courts and so forth against you. And he called it, instead of signing your name or doing a signature, he said it's an autograph. And I agree with him. It is an autograph. So you will be autographing the declaration. And that's really all it is. Anyway.
That's one of the things that I've been trying to simplify for people to understand when they're getting into these cases, situations, information, whatever point they're doing with all of this. Words matter, and it's all about jurisdiction and using the proper language in the right jurisdiction, because one set of words in one jurisdiction makes sense and will be law or lawful, but in another jurisdiction it means absolutely nothing. It might as well be Chinese. So this in Cole's notes, your book Allodial Title via Land Patents is the right language for the right jurisdiction to use to set your land free. Is that in fairness the simplest way to put it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're very careful on how the declaration is written, and we are very careful with the math that goes into the cadastral conversion for the surveys. What's also very interesting, I said, I gave you an example of precedents that was set in a common law court, because these land patents were issued between here in Canada. In the Western provinces under the Homestead Act and the Dominions Land Act between 1872 and 1930. Out in British Columbia, we've actually got a couple of land patents that were issued in 1700s. I know that out in Ontario, we have some from the 1700s as well. The beautiful thing about this is if they were to attack you and try to attack you, they would come after the fiction, the all capitalized version of your name. That's how they would come after you. And you don't need to respond to them, but I would suggest that you need to respond. You don't have to, but you should. And how should you? By only doing one thing and one thing only. Getting a certified copy of the update of your land patent. That's the package, the original land patent with the declaration on it. Have it certified as evidence, file it in the court, and that's precedent. That's it. It's over for them. They can no longer come after you because you've now shown precedence that you no longer exist in their jurisdiction.
So that in essence answers this question for Savvy Dude here. Does this actually work? Are there people who have done this that do not pay taxes? Those precedents have been set and challenged on different occasions. So again, it comes back to having the right language in the right jurisdiction with the right documentation. And yes, this does work.
Here's a funny thing. So a lot of the times we're getting a lot of blowback here in Alberta, where I'm at right now, from Land Title's office, who are saying, well, these things, they're not that important, blah, blah, blah. And they're well, we don't, we're not sure how that could help you. And then this is some of the responses that they're getting back. There was one lady out in British Columbia who asked one of the people in the Land Title's office about land patents. She goes, oh, those things we don't even have them here anymore. They moved them all out of the offices and they took them to put them in vaults. They just don't mean anything anymore. They just took them and put them in vaults. And I'm thinking, oh my God, lady, do you hear what you just said? How unimportant they are that they actually took them out of the offices and put them in vaults.
Right.
Wow. Wow. Oh, so how important are these to the provincial and federal governments? These things are so important that if you learn what we're trying to teach people here about this, you're defunding the government. They know that once you take allodial title, that you are the sovereign, that you are supposed to be, and all the property that sits on that land is no longer now. This doesn't cover income tax. You have a job 9 to 5. It doesn't matter. You still have to pay your income tax. If you have a corporation, that you have a business out of, and you still have to pay a corporate tax. This is not a way to get out of that. But this is, if you have a business on allodial title land, open for business.
There you go.
You can open for business because it sits on sovereign territory where their bylaws and their provincial edicts have no sway. In other words, that you, and by the way, anybody that comes on your property or on your land without your expressed permission, either spoken or written, be it a government agent or a neighbor that didn't realize, they're committing criminal trespass. And the whole idea, that's part what I say, when you talk about freedom, you get freedom, but there's work that has to be done with it. And you have to understand that in order to, you have to enter into contracts. If you're not paying taxes, but you still, the city, you might be on the city garbage, or you might be on the city sewer system. Now it's a meeting of the minds, contracting with the city to do what they want to do. And by the way, the cities know exactly how much all the services cost. The add-ons for your property taxes are usually your services, that your entire services, including police and fire and all that stuff, is about 1/3 of your property taxes. That's about it. And the 2/3 is the gravy that they slurp off your plate. Okay, that's what gives them their cabin up at the woods and their new boat and all the big fat bonuses that they take from the people. It's sad, but that's it. And they don't want you to figure that out. Because if you have to have a meeting with the mines for services, including your hydro or your natural gas, your garbage is picked up by a private contractor, then you enter into a contract with a private contractor. And the nice thing too is that if enough people do this, you're going to get all kinds of services, and you're going to open up a laissez-faire market for people who will plow the roads in the winter, who will pick up your garbage and so forth. And the prices will go down because competition is not a sin. Competition is good. It makes everybody stand on equal footing. David Rockefeller's father, the founder of the Rockefeller, he's very famous for saying competition is a sin. He was a monopolist, as you can see with Exxon, and how the Great Reset is going today, and why all the tech companies want to put all the little tech companies out of business and keep the monopoly for themselves.
We're going to dive into that here real shortly here, but on that. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to finish up. I've had, and I'm hoping that some of the people tonight are watching this live stream with you and I, that have sent in e-transfers. Now, that's really great. I really do appreciate you sending in the donation for the booklet. But in the message bar, in the message compartment of the e-transfer, please include an email address, because I've got about half a dozen of these sitting in a file in the on the email with no email address. It's a PDF booklet that we send out, and I need to have an email or a phone number or a mailing address. I don't care, but the e-transfer comes in and it's got your name on it, but that's all it has. And I have no way of contacting you. So please, in the message box, when you do the e-transfer, please include an email address, because then you'll get, usually if I'm doing it, I do it like 2 or 3 times a day now because it's that busy. And once I have that, I just bang and out it goes, and you'll get it usually within an hour of getting that e-transfer in. I try to get it out that quickly for you. But yeah, email in the message of an e-transfer, please.
And I want to add on top of that, don't send it to me, send it to Doug. There's been some folks that have been confused, and they're getting what they're looking for. It's just they'll get it quicker if they're not depending on me to get it to Doug. So if you guys are seeing this, make sure you reach out to Doug on that. Actually, I will at the banner down here in the bottom below. And there's a lot of great questions coming in on the different chats. And I really want to say I appreciate these questions, guys. We're not going to be able to get to them all, but by all means, reach out to Doug on his Facebook page or his website, and he will get the answers for you, or get a hold of us and we'll pass it on to Doug as well. So any last thing you want to throw in there on the book? And I guess one of the other things that people need to understand as well, I believe, that what you're giving them is not they can walk out and have this done in 5 minutes to no extra cost. This is a very significant process, and there are going to be other costs involved. We're not going to get into that here, what it's all going to cost in the process and the time and all of those things. But you, again, are the guy to go to answer those questions. And if they want to look at having somebody look after it for them, they can reach out to you through email as well.
Well, I'll give you a spitball across the various provinces. You get different costs, but it will not cost you more than $2,000 to do this. And if you look in Ontario and you look at the tax situation in Ontario, that's like not very much money at all comparatively to what people pay in property taxes in Toronto itself. It's like outrageous.
So there you go, folks. This is just the beginning of the process. This is the how-to manual, and then you can go forward with or without Doug's help. The choice is yours, and there's going to be a lot more to it. And COVID willing, get it done as soon as possible. Right?
And for now, without COVID, it would take about 10 days to do this process. With COVID, we're finding it's taking much, much longer because a lot of the stuff isn't online, and sometimes the offices are open and sometimes they're not. And if they are open, sometimes you can go down there and sometimes you cannot. You have to do it over the telephone, and then hopefully you'll find somebody in the office that you can work with as an administrator, and they will help you get the information, and then they will usually email you a PDF of it and then follow up with the hard copies, which I found a few people have been very well serviced with some wonderful administrators out in British Columbia, and even here in Alberta, and a couple over in Saskatchewan. Wasn't a problem, but then I found also there's a lot of others that tell me some horror stories of what they're going through because the administrators are, I think they've had a whisper in the ear. So it's all how you approach them. And I suggest that you don't go in saying you want to find the land patent to take a allodial title to your property. No, you're going in to do some historical background on the property, and maybe you have a son or a granddaughter that you're helping out with a school project, and you're trying to figure out for them, for their history class or what have you. A little white lie doesn't hurt, and it goes a lot further than trying to explain to somebody that's an administrator in an office what a allodial title is and why you want it so you can defund the government and not pay property taxes.
Yeah, a little bit of honey and due diligence when you're doing this is going to help you out a lot, I suspect. Again, there's like I said, a bunch of questions, guys. Doug will get back to you as best he can. We're gonna, in a mindset of time here, we don't want to go long on this. We want to get into a few minutes of some of the noise that's going on in the rest of the world here right now. There's a lot of people out there that are really confused by what's going on in the stock markets and in the silver markets and with their banking and their money. This whole GameStop, Robinhood, stock markets interference has really got a lot of people concerned. I'm not the guy. Again, this is why you're here. Those of you that don't know, this is Doug's world. This is what he lives in, and here you go.
Yeah, and I'll give you I saw a really good video the other day. what's his name? Ben Shapiro. And he had a whiteboard, and he explained very, very nicely in layman's terms what happened with GameStop. And I thought, wow, I wish everybody could watch that video. It was up on Facebook, and it probably is still there. They wouldn't take it down. But I'll give you basically what he explained. I'll go through it. So some hedge funds saw an opportunity with GameStop to make some money. And GameStop, they thought, might be a little bit overpriced. And so what they did is they went to a bunch of brokers and borrowed GameStop stock for a fee. And the fee, whatever the fee would have been something like 10% or something along like that. So you get the stock for $50 a share plus 10%. Okay, $5 a share extra, and they borrow. Okay, and they borrow it for a certain length of time, 30 days, 60 days. But it's usually not longer than 60 days. And otherwise, they incur penalties. So if they exceed the 30-day purchase, then they have borrow, then they incur penalties. So what they do, so they buy the stock at $50, and for 10% extra, that the broker takes is $5 over and above. They turn around, they sell that stock into the market, and in volume, so that the price will fall down. And then, it's called shorting the stock, by the way, they buy it when it goes down to $20 a share. They buy it all back because they made $30 a share and they paid $5 out to the broker. So they made $25 clear profit. And what happened to good old GameStop? Well, it would have gone bankrupt. But they don't care, because these are what we also call vulture capitalists. And so they look for these kinds of things in the market. So what these lovely young fellows at Reddit did, and there were, from my understanding, there were several hundred, if not 1,000 of these guys. And they said, oh, cool. Look what these hedge funds are going to be doing. They're starting to sell this GameStop into the open market. Well, we got some money, and we got a whole bunch of people with money, so we're going to buy it. And they're going to sell it at 50. We'll buy it at 50. It goes up to 52. We'll buy it at 52. It'll go up to 55. We're going to continue buying. And they bought it up to $417 a share. Oh my God. How cool is that? And whatever, I don't know what the original stock price was, but it wasn't $50. I believe it was somewhere in the 20s. And they actually drove the stock price up 1,600% to $417 a share. It was hilarious because the hedge funds lost billions. They lost because they have to buy the stock back because it wasn't theirs. They borrowed it. So they borrowed the stock at whatever the price was plus the percentage for the broker. And then they had to go into the open market and buy it back. Well, oh my God, they said, well, we can't buy it back because it's going up too fast. And so they stopped and they took penalty. But then the broker said, no way, we need that stock back. And then they were forced into purchasing it at whatever if it was $200 a share. Well, you do the math, several million shares or tens of millions of shares that you borrowed now at $25 a share or $50 a share. Now you have to pay back at $200 a share. What's your loss? I just loved it. I just laughed and laughed and laughed. Now, so Reddit shut that down. They sided with the hedge funds. They said the hedge funds can't lose all this money because the taxpayers need to bail them out. And really, the government said, well, the taxpayers will bail them out. If they lost hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, we're going to have to bail these guys out. But we have to stop them from losing money and let the millennial, they call them the millennial traders, we're going to steal all their money, because that's really what this is. This is theft of a legitimate group that saw an opportunity against vulture capitalists, and the government backed the vulture capitalists against we the people. And so did Reddit, and so did Robinhood, the trading platform. And Robinhood wound up having to borrow $3.8 billion earlier or late last week to stay afloat. This is what they had, a mass exodus. People said, wait a minute, why are we trading here if you're protecting the hedge funds against us? This is like going into a casino that says heads we win, tails you lose. And so today there was a headline that 3.8 billion that they borrowed last week to keep them afloat, keep Robinhood afloat, now needs another $1 billion just to stay solvent. And it looks like Robinhood is going into bankruptcy, which is not a bad thing. And that's what they get. That's what they get for screwing over we the people. And so it should be. Even the platforms where these people spoke on, right? You know, like Facebook shut down an account that had over 150,000 members. Shut it down. Just closed it.
This is a really big reality check for Wall Street, the stock market, and we the people, and the people that have been being pillaged from for a long time. And so is this kind of the similar thing to what people are now doing with the silver market?
It's even better. It's even better. This is way better. Oh, I'm so happy they're doing this. This is just, I've always dreamed of going into the silver market and doing what these guys are doing, but I never had the wherewithal with the amount of people necessary in order to pull this play off. And this is a short squeeze in silver. And it's beautiful because the bullion banks, JP Morgan Chase, and Scotia Makata, and others that have a silver and gold on we call it the Crimex. We don't even call it the COMEX. We call it the Crimex because what they do is they sell silver futures, paper futures, into the market to hold the prices down. And what's happening now, and this is what makes it so cool, is they have no silver behind this paper. It's all paper, and it's going into the market. And instead of forcing the prices down, there are people there buying it, forcing the prices up. And the bankers are going, oh, no, oh, no. And the biggest fear isn't that they're buying up the paper. The biggest fear is that they will stand for delivery at the end of the month on these contracts. And the bankers know that they do this on a regular basis. For the last 10 years, this has been one of the things that they've done at the gold and silver markets was paper. We call it papering the market. They take all the gold from the multiverses and dump it into the markets over a 5-minute period, 10 minutes before the New York market opens. So that they took it from 1800 to 1200 in literally an hour's worth of trading back in 2010. So we know that, and it's all paper. There is no physical metal. And so their fear now is these guys are going to stand for delivery because they're not other bankers. These are not hedge funds. These are not the people that will take fiat currency for the contract, because that's what these hedgies do, and that's what these sovereign wealth funds do. They, instead of they'll stand for delivery, and then the bullion bankers will come to you and say, well, okay, we'll give you twice the price that you pay. So if you're paying $24 an ounce for silver, they'll give you $50 an ounce for silver, but they'll give it to you in fiat currency, and they'll turn to the Fed, and the Fed will print the money, and then the Fed will hit to the Treasury and say, okay, you guys owe us this money. Treasury will take taxpayer money and give it to the Fed, and that's how they balance the book, so that the taxpayer actually is the one being screwed, and because the taxpayer is also the guy buying silver at a price that he thinks he can sell for more. Because the price might go up. Well, guess what? You just got screwed, and you got paid to get screwed. So now what will happen? And I'm looking forward to the end of the month, because these people are going to stand for delivery, and they won't take a fiat currency for it instead.
Well,
that's not their play. Their play is to actually take physical metal.
And my concern is, at the end of the day, for the average person, that's sitting with their investment money or their pension or their retirement plan, with their money in the bank. And I think Mr. Trudeau successfully passed orders that the government can seize assets and money out of people's bank accounts, or if not, he will at some point in the very near future. When this starts imploding on the banking system, how does this affect the average person that that is living their day-to-day life trying to survive in this nonsense already?
Well, with this silver play, we might see a collapse of the fiat currency system. We may not. They may, the government could easily come in and say that, well, anybody who stands for silver, those contracts are now canceled, and you forfeit any money that you put in. And that will prove once again that the government is not for the people, but for the banks. Mm-hmm. And that wouldn't surprise me. Rather than seeing the market collapse out and have egg all over their face because they've manipulated the market, they will come up with some form of killing the small investor, the same way they did with the Robinhood boys and the Reddit guys for against the hedgies. Look who they supported. They did not support we the people. They supported the hedgies. But this is a different type of market. This is the COMEX, and this is not the stock market. That comes under SEC regulations. This is and it's owned by CME out of Chicago, and it's a commodities market. So it's different, and you on the stock markets, you're local. That's Wall Street. That's the U.S. But the commodities markets are global, and the COMEX takes money, sells contracts to all over the world. China buys from them, Russia buys from them, Switzerland buys from them, Germany buys from them. Suddenly, and the government steps in and says, oh, well, we're just going to not allow you to serve contracts because you don't have any silver. That will implode the market. That will implode the COMEX. In other words, they'll have to shut it down. And they would lose hundreds of billions of dollars, because that would take out the United States out of the commodities market business, period. It would be gone. There would be no market for iron ore, copper, silver, gold, corn, all of these things that go through these, the COMEX and the CME. Their various exchanges would be nullified. In other words, people would just pull all their money out, close their accounts. And what happens? Well, it's a perfect example of what happens when the company goes bankrupt. They have no customers because they wouldn't fulfill the obligation of people standing for delivery. So it's going to get really, really interesting to see what happens. See how they did it with Robinhood and the stock market. Well, you deal directly. You go into the COMEX, you open accounts, and you sell and you buy directly through the COMEX. Okay, you don't have a Robinhood or a TD Waterhouse or anything like that. So it's a different play, and I just love it. I think, oh my goodness, they could drive silver easily up to $200 or $300 an ounce, depending upon how hard they pressure the banks. Now, the banks would be very smart to stop selling these futures contracts into the market. And just kind of relax a little bit, and maybe start buying up contracts, short contracts. We'll have to see how it plays out. This is the real, because they went in on the Globex, which is the overnight markets, and this was the first day on COMEX that we saw this happening. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting ride for the rest of the month of February, and so it'll be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great opportunity. I've been saying this now for years. You need three precious metals. You need gold, you need silver, and you need lead. So here's a perfect buying opportunity for silver. Get yourself some silver. Even though the price is going up, it's still worth buying at this price now. I did a purchase on Sunday myself. I do once a month. I will go and I will buy anywhere from 10 to 100 ounces of silver a month, depending upon the month. And it's just, I've been doing it since the 90s. And it's just, and not necessarily 100 ounces, but some number, 10 up to 100 ounces every month. and you accumulate a lot. You'd be surprised how fast your little war chest grows when you do that. And I buy a little bit of gold and a little bit of lead now and again, but the lead is in a different format, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's been going to become a precious metal someday.
It is.
Well, right? So,
well, it's a very precious metal because when negotiation breaks down with gold and silver, you can always end the negotiations at 4 times the speed of sound with lead.
Creatively said, absolutely. All right. So last minute tips or hints or things you want to let people know here, Doug, when we close this out?
Well, and I pitch Kitco as a place to go for buying gold and silver. Also, Silver Gold Bulls out of Calgary are a great place. These guys are 100% honest, both of them. And then I use a little organization out of Ontario from time to time called Colonial Coins. And they do, the same thing. You can buy from them off their website, and they do send you, usually within 10 days, you get your package. And I've never not had a package delivered by those 3 companies. And so, yeah. So if you're looking to go buy gold and silver, silvergoldbulls.ca, kitco.ca, and colonialcoins.ca.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. One-on-one with Doug Force with the best information and tips of the day on land and minerals and lead. Thanks for your evening, Doug. I hope you have a great one from here on out, and we'll do this again real soon. So
Absolutely.
For those of you that aren't following Doug yet, you'll find him on Facebook, YouTube, and his website has been scrolling back and forth across the bottom there, and it'll be coming up here again right away. So there it is, themrscanada.com, and reach out to him with your questions and set yourself in a better position for getting through this insanity that we're going through right now. So thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. And by the way, we are on DLive, where we live stream now because we're being shut off, or it looks like they're going to shut us down on YouTube. And we upload videos now to Rumble. We have a huge audience on Rumble now. And Brighteon, we are on Brighteon. The Myth is Canada's on Brighteon as well. And there's 46 videos up on Brighteon, where we only have half a dozen up on Rumble. But we have one of the videos on Rumble has had over 9,000 views already. And it was very controversial and very cool. It was a really, really fun time.
Awesome stuff. So get over there, guys, and learn a thing or two. All right, yeah. Doug, we'll do this again soon.
Thank you. Take care. Good night, everybody. It's wonderful to have. What a great audience. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye for now. All right, guys. That was Mr. Doug Force with some of the best tips of the day. What I'm going to do here, and bear with me for just a second, I'm going to close out with a video that put together for our purposes of giving you guys an update on where we're going and what we're doing. This is just the first of a bunch of new projects. Some of them we've been working on really, really hard, and I wish I could tell you, but I can't just yet. But you guys are really gonna make love some of the stuff that we got coming up over the next little bit. So with that, I'm going to play you guys out with this other video of ours, and I hope you enjoy it, and stay tuned and stay Canadian, and let's make Canada, Canada again. It's been almost 2 years now since I started out on this path to give a voice to Canadians that our government and our mainstream media has not only ignored, but silenced. When I launched What's Up Canada almost 2 years ago, I never expected it would become an international voice at times, reaching all corners of the world. So much more than just a Facebook page or a YouTube channel. It's become a community, and I am so proud. Not only have you all combined to keep this platform growing, and propaganda that I know you all get bombarded with each and every day. Since this journey began, it has only been made possible because of the generosity of Canadians just like you, the ones really who don't have anything to give but still find ways to give to others. I'm deeply grateful. Meanwhile, thing in the world for me to do. Now I'm faced with really no choice. It's time to evolve and grow. We have seen the big platforms receive billions of dollars, and groups like Rebel and True North receive hundreds of thousands of dollars in support while asking for donations with every piece of content they produce. I didn't want to do that. To date, we've been able to reach more people with our work than most of the MSM on any given month. And we've been doing this on an average of $500 to $600 a month in donations from Canadians just like you, and I'm deeply grateful for that. Part of this evolution means proper structure, equipment, and resources, some things that have been sorely lacking. Eric and I have been compiling information on how we can most effectively do this. That means financing. I can only do this together with you. We've put together a plan, a two-part plan. We're not asking for $314,000 to cover our mortgage. If we can achieve these two goals, one is a monthly target that would keep us surviving our basic expenses and travel. And what we really need is we need better equipment. You guys deserve the best information and view. And I'm hoping Canadians find the value in our work to make this possible. We promise we'll deliver. We're on the same side. We're in the front line. At the end of this video, you'll see all of the platforms that we're using moving forward, as well as the ways you can join this community or support the work that we do. We will continue to fight this war with you. We can only do this with you. So for everybody that has helped along the way and made this possible, my deepest gratitude goes out to you for all that you do. Because together we can make Canada